Good afternoon, and welcome to what appears to be like a presentation that could be of some interest. There's nothing like an absolutely packed room, standing room only, and starting several minutes early. So you, and each one of you, represent the respect that people in this community have for this gentleman to my left, Dan Kaminsky. Dan has been a very important thinker, obviously, in computer security over the last 10 years. He's worked in a number of top companies out there, including Avaya, Cisco, IOActive, and of course Microsoft, where he worked on enhancing the Windows operating system and different projects. I think many of us were here 2 years ago, 2008. I was here when Dan shook the house. And he shook the house when he shared a mechanism to exploit what had been a known flaw, recognized flaw in the domain name system protocol. And while the flaw had been known, it was not thought that that flaw could be successfully exploited for malintent or other purposes. Well, Dan laid that issue to rest, but he did it in a graceful fashion in that he discovered the flaw or worked on the flaw to develop the exploit and then shared that with key industry players, I think roughly up to 6 months in advance of him coming to Black Hat and sharing that fundamental flaw, which shook a lot of this industry to its core because the domain name system is so extremely vital and important to the functioning of the internet. It's an honor for me to be here. I'm Rod Beckstrom, by the way. I'm President and CEO of ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, a multinational nonprofit organization which is the coordinator of the domain name system. But when I was here 2 years ago, and when I was speaking and doing the keynote, I talked about how the most important thing we could do for security in the internet was perhaps investing in protocols, new protocol development, finalizing protocols, developing those standards, and then rolling them out and implementing them. Because otherwise we're just putting a lot of patches onto a system that it inherently was not designed for security. So that was 2 years ago. That was a morning speech I gave. Then later in the day, Dan shook the house when he announced the fundamental DNS exploit. And so it's very exciting at this Black Hat 2 years later, in part because of the industry's reaction to the exploit that Dan discovered. Many parties came together and pushed DNSSEC to a successful conclusion. So it's my honor to introduce Dan, and not only because he's brilliant and has contributed so much, but I really respect Dan for his integrity and for the fact that he really cares, and he's here to help make a better internet and contribute to a better world. So with that, I hand it over to Dan Kaminsky. Thank you.
First of all, I do want to apologize to anyone who's here to see a bunch of stuff on web defense. Although we are out to defend the web, you know, the DNSSEC root was signed 2 weeks ago. If I'm going to give a DNS talk, it's got to be now. So this is now my 11th year speaking at Black Hat. I know a lot of you think that maybe I've got like a thing about DNS. Small one. This was not actually my original obsession. No, my actual first talk here was on SSH, the really popular platform for remote system management. My first Black Hat talk, believe it or not, was my first most successful. Code from that talk, the -D flag, is in every Mac and Linux machine on the planet. Someday, perhaps, I'll do something just as significant. So I've been kind of interested. Anyone here notice how excited I've been about DNSSEC for like the last 18 months? This talk is basically about why. So let's start with a very common scene in information technology. Oh crap, gotta log in to some machine at some customer.org site. And it sits there and it looks at you and says, you got a password? And you're like, man, I'm your vendor. Why can't I just tell you I'm your vendor and log on in? And, you know, wouldn't it be nice if I could just say, hey, I'm Dan at remotesupport.org. can I please log into root@somecustomer.org? Wouldn't that be nice if it just, oh, hey, that just worked. All right, well, I bet this required some crazy, complicated configuration on the server side. Oh, hey, that SSH server is configured to allow Dan at remotesupport.org to log in. And that's all the configuration it took. What is going on here? My friends, we live in the future. For the last 18 years, people have been trying to secure the DNS. Believe me, I get a lot of credit, but I did not even do a tiny iota of the work here. But they did it. Now it's our turn to secure everything else. DNSSEC offers us the ability to build some things in security that we've never had the ability to do well before. But I get ahead of myself. There are 5 audiences for the talk that I am going to give now. They're the user, they're the buyer, they're the builder, there's the breaker, and there's one more. If you're a user, you're just someone, watch stuff, maybe you're here hanging out, learning what it's all about. I know you're out there. We're here to build what I call the domain key infrastructure. The domain key infrastructure, what it means to you is that when you receive a mail from your bank, you're actually going to know it came from your bank. We've been promising this to you as a security community for 15 years. We got to deliver. I apologize to you. We should have done this a long time ago. All we do instead of giving you what we say is we ask you too many questions. We make horrible demands on your memory, and we blame you when we screw up. But I'm going to tell you the truth. When we in security fail, it's not because for lack of trying. It's because we've lacked a fundamental foundational element needed to secure the network. If you're a buyer, I'm just going to tell you straight out and bald, DKI is going to increase your budget. Now, 10 years ago, you may have remembered spending hundreds of millions of dollars in your community trying to get authentication under control. Now, on the one hand, it didn't work. Oh, man, it didn't work. On the other hand, it's not like we need strong authentication any less today than we needed it 10 years ago. Verizon Business did this amazing data-driven study, and you know what they found? For all the lead O-Day, for all the cool tricks, 60% of compromises traced back to passwords and credentials. No passwords, bad passwords, default passwords. This problem is not going away, and it's literally 60% of the expense. If you are a builder, meaning you make stuff for people to buy, let me tell you, this is going to refresh your product line. Okay, we've all sold a lot of stuff that doesn't scale. Okay, you can get someone to buy it, and they'll take it to their labs, and they'll run it in a little division. But you'll always note after 6 months, a year, 2 years, yeah, they're not really picking up your phone calls, are they? It's almost like once they tried to actually deploy the stuff at scale, it didn't work. Well, you know what? Life's too short to defend broken code. If I didn't think this DNSSEC stuff was actually going to work, man, I got other things to talk about. This is going to work. We are finally going to be able to build out scalable federated systems. Now, if you are a breaker, you are the second most important in this room. Most people believe code is secure until proven otherwise. We know that's not true at all. If you were paying attention to the SSH demo, you probably picked up on the fact, wait a second, Recursion Ventures is making DNSSEC pre-auth in OpenSSH? Yeah, and you're on the right path. We are going to do this. We got to be paranoid. We got to be paranoid like we've never been. And so we're taking the radical transparency route. I am now the chief scientist of Recursion Ventures, and this means I get to say things like, you know what? We are going to fund and work and support an aggressive public audit of all DNSSEC and DKI technologies, starting with LDNS, probably the best DNSSEC library on the planet. You may or may not know Justin Ferguson. If not, you should. The guy's probably one of the best code auditors in the world. He is auditing LDNS for us right now, and we are going to release his report completely, openly, and publicly sometime in the next couple of weeks. NLNet Labs is the author of LDNS. They love it. They are completely supportive and are totally backing this operation. You know what? We have a latency issue in security. We don't find the bugs during development, during early adoption, even during like the standard, spread. But man, once this stuff gets popular, we show up, we're like, oh yeah, that's really broken. Okay, I don't want to wait 25 years for the next DNS bug. We've got to find this fast. So we will do everything in our power to support that. But the most important is Grandma. Grandma, look around. Grandma, wave to the audience, if you will. My grandmother, this is her 7th black hat. Gotta say, Grandma's been at more black hats than you for almost all values you. And she has brought cookies, so feel free to have some of our family cookies after. So what are we here to do? First, we're here to explain DNSSEC. It's not actually that complicated. Second, we are going to deploy DNSSEC on stage. It is going to be the one live demo I'm going to do here. I will taunt the demo gods but once. I don't have time to discuss everything. It turns out a bunch of code worked at the last minute that I didn't expect. So we can't talk all about how the server-side scalability stuff. But we are going to talk about end-to-end trust and how DNSSEC is actually going to implement it. And finally, we're going to demonstrate the domain key infrastructure working. Not theoretically, not hype, not maybe this is how it could work. Right here, right now, on stage, Coder GTFO. Now there's some ground rules. First of all, no religion. I do not care. We do not care about not invented here. Some of the coolest content in this talk was not even my idea. That's fine, because we have an internet to fix. This is a problem that is bigger than any one individual, any one organization, any community, or even any country. We've got to work together if we're going to make this stuff work. We can't care about style. Not don't, we can't. There's something I refer to as Skype Flaw, which basically says the internet got really messed up in 2001, deal with it. Theoretical elegance is great and all, but it's got to work. And not just work, but it's got to work well. Systems that barely work, barely deployed. There's another talk here. I'm horribly embarrassed I don't remember the name of the speaker, but he repeated some research on looking at what is going on with SSL on the wider internet. And you know what? It's just not very good. A million endpoints out there. Half of them aren't even pretending to be secure. I mean, we're not doing a very good job. So corollary is, we can't cite historical precedent all that powerfully. It's not like what we're doing now is working. We do care about operations. We are not going to win this game by calling people lazy and stupid, no matter how intelligent and industrious it defines us as. We're not going to win through moralization and accusing people of being bad people. And we're really not going to win through regulation. We want a more secure internet. We want stuff where users can find out that they're talking to their bank. We're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way, by delivering better products that are easier to deploy, that are less expensive to deploy, that offer value to the people that are running them. Can security do a better job? Let me tell you, this password situation we have is a mess. If we can't do better than this, we're just not trying hard enough. So, timelines. 18 months ago, we were very loud and said, yeah, this DNSSEC stuff is a train wreck, implementation-wise. You know what else we said? It's going to get better. The protocol is actually okay. Now look what we have 18 months later. We have products, a lot of them. We have a lot of open source products. We have a lot of commercial servers. We have a lot of managed service providers. This is not a sales pitch. This is a market description. There is a robust market of companies out there building solutions around this stuff. There's a lot of skin in this game.